Do newly released photos confirm that Amber Heard cheated on Johnny Depp? And why wasn't this shown to the jury in their trial? Attorney Katherine Lizardo explains. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. The Johnny Depp-Amber Heard saga has been continuing even after the trial, and we've reported about the comments that were made in the media by the lawyers, by Heard, and even a juror after the monumental decision by the jury, a decision that found Heard liable to Depp on each count of defamation for her statements in a Washington Post op-ed piece that claimed Depp abused her. Now, as you might recall, during the trial, evidence was presented that Heard, who claimed that she was the victim in their relationship, was actually cheating on Johnny Depp. Now, most notably, there was elevator surveillance footage that was introduced showing actor James Franco allegedly cozying up to Heard, and this happened while he was visiting her at penthouse that she shared with Depp while the Pirates actor was out of town. This was something that Heard was pressed on by Depp's attorney, Camille Vasquez.
That's you and Mr. Franco on May 22nd, 2016, right, Ms. Heard?
That's correct.
And you're taking him up to the penthouses, aren't you?
That's where I lived, yes.
And it's past 11 p.m. at night, isn't that right?
I'm not quite sure of the time it looked like that.
But now, new photos have come out purportedly showing surveillance footage of Heard making out with model and actress Cara Delevingne. That's right. They were provided to Andy Signore from Popcorn Planet, who went through this on his YouTube page. And while this does remain a question of whether these are unverified photos, they do appear to be real, considering this looks like the same exact footage of the elevator from the Eastern Columbia building that we saw previously. There's no date on the footage, but again, you have to wonder if this is when Heard and Depp were still married. So the question is, how come this wasn't introduced to the jury, and what effect could this have had on them? Well, I'm joined right now by Plaintiffs Attorney Katherine Lizardo. Katherine, it's great to see you.
Great to see you too, Jesse.
So I have to imagine that Depp's team knew about this. I mean, or they could have found out about it. Why wasn't this introduced into trial? I imagine it might be some sort of hearsay issue.
Yes, that's what I would think too. You mentioned that there's no date on there. Might be a hearsay issue. Also might be an authentication issue. But then again, like you mentioned, they had the video of James Franco in the elevator with Amber Heard. So why did this not come in? Most likely it's a hearsay issue because we saw how Judge Ascarati is really very strict about hearsay evidence coming in.
And it's funny because Joshua Drew, and by the way, assuming these photos are legitimate, but Joshua Drew, who was married to Heard's friend Rocky Pennington, he said previously in a deposition when asked, did Rocky tell you that Amber Heard was having an affair with Elon Musk and Cara Delevingne while she was still married to Johnny Depp? Drew replied, yes. And then he was questioned again. And Joshua Drew is somebody who testified in this case, but this part of his deposition testimony wasn't included. He went on to say, did she ever tell you in words or substance while Amber was still married to Johnny Depp, the three of them, Amber Heard, Elon Musk, and Cara Delevingne, spent the night together? And Drew says, yes. So they're having a three-way affair? Correct. Now, I have to ask you, Katherine, even though Musk has denied this about them being intimate, and he's always maintained that he, never had an intimate relationship with Cara Delevingne, and he started a relationship with Heard after she divorced Depp, how come these statements from Joshua Drew, which seem to corroborate the videos, how come this wasn't allowed into evidence?
It wasn't allowed because it's hearsay. We heard from that deposition transcript, Josh Drew was saying, the question was, did Rocky tell you? That in itself told you about this affair. That would be objection as hearsay right away. And as I mentioned, Judge Ascarati is very strict about hearsay, so that's why that did not come in. But the thing is, though, they could have used that as an impeachment against Drew's testimony. When I was actually watching Drew's videotape deposition being shown during the trial, I thought among all of the video deposition of Amber Heard's friends that they showed, his video deposition testimony seemed to be credible compared to the other ones. And I think a lot of people felt that way too if you look at social media. Of course, the jury didn't look at that, but looking just at his testimony, he looked very credible. And so if his testimony, that video testimony, juxtapose that next to that video, maybe the jury would be persuaded as to whether or not that affects Amber Heard's credibility. And it sure does, because how much more would you interpret that kind of video?
I was going to ask you that, what you think the actual effect of it would be. So let's say Heard's camp had no problem with it coming in. Let's say we'll introduce it even over the objection of hearsay. And by the way, just so we're clear, if Drew would have seen this himself and he wasn't getting an account from a third party, then it would have been allowed in, right?
Yes, exactly. Because then Chu's question to him during his deposition would not be, did Rocky tell you? It's more of, did you see or have you ever actually known that Amber Heard would have Elon Musk or Cara Delevingne at their apartment when Johnny Depp is not there?
So how come Rocky Pennington or somebody else wasn't brought in to corroborate this affair and this kind of three-way? I guess maybe the question is, would it have been relevant? How relevant would it have been to the overall case for Johnny Depp or even Amber Heard?
Yes, and that's the ultimate question. And since there were two claims here, let's look at it for Johnny Depp's initial claim of defamation. I think for that, it would not have made that big of a difference only because the jury verdict was overwhelmingly for him. So even without this video and without Drew's deposition testimony, the jury already believed Johnny Depp and already disbelieved the credibility of Amber Heard. So this will just confound that and would not make any difference because Johnny Depp won. Now, looking at the counterclaim, I have a different point of view of that because the jury found in favor of Amber Heard as to that one defamatory statement they claim by Adam Waldman relating to the hoax that her friends made, calling 911 and spilling some wine. Now, the question is, Drew, as I mentioned, came across as credible, but if you put his deposition testimony in that video, would the jury think that if Amber Heard's friends are willing to cover up her affair, how far would they go to help her and cover up or support her domestic abuse allegation or sexual abuse allegation? We would never know. But
Right.
I think that would have affected the verdict as to Amber Heard's counterclaim.
That's a good point. And right now, as of the time of this recording, neither Heard or Cara Delevingne have actually issued a statement in response to this, but these photos are circulating and people have comments. Katherine Lizardo, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.